Las Vegas Motor Speedway. There's your pole sitter for tomorrow's Kobalt 400. Jeff Gordon. Tony Stewart made it into the final round of qualifying, and everybody is getting ready for this round of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice. Get your helmet on and let's go. It's set up Saturday on Fox Sports 1. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice, and the track is open on a gorgeous day in the Nevada desert. Not a cloud in the sky. 57 already, headed into the 70s today, and we just learned next week in Phoenix it's in the 90s all weekend. Wow.
And after Atlanta last week, it's a very welcome 70 and 90 degrees coming our way.
I don't think I've ever been here in Vegas, so when the weather's been any better. This is ideal weather. It's beautiful here. I love coming to Vegas. I love coming to this racetrack, I should say, because it's a lot of fun. Coming out here, they make it feel, this feels like a really, really big deal being here.
And all around the city it is. You know, every electronic billboard had welcome race fan messages on it. From the airport to the hotels all the way up here to the Speedway. And yesterday they had a huge crowd for qualifying here on Friday, so well done.
Yeah, they really, I mean, the whole town embraces NASCAR being here. I don't care where you go. If you go to a restaurant, you come into the airport, everybody doesn't say, what are you in town for? They say, oh, you're here for the race.
Yep.
They know that this big event that's happening out here.
See Brad Keselowski here in the 2 car, just starting his run. Brad did not do any race runs whatsoever yesterday, strictly worked on qualifying.
And they worked just a little too hard, because after his car passed pre-qualifying inspection, it was sent back because a NASCAR inspector noticed some unapproved adjustments going on the right rear quarter panel. So he had to go back through inspection and just got out there in time, but he made it into the final round.
Yeah, you don't want to be doing any pushing or pulling on your quarter panels.
Nope.
There we just saw Jimmy Johnson there in the 48 car, as we see now our pole sitter Jeff Gordon. But Jimmy Johnson, his fast lap was 28.14. That would have been a pretty sporty qualifying lap last night.
I mean, these cars are blowing my mind how fast they are. They're faster than they were last year.
Well, the biggest smile in Las Vegas, the man who hit the jackpot here yesterday, was Jeff Gordon. Took him 18 years to win a pole here. Matt Yoakum, he finally got one.
Indeed he did, Mike. He's trying to maximize the fun factor here at his final stop in Las Vegas as a driver behind the wheel. Track record on the pole, as you mentioned, for the first time. Now they're going to try to capitalize on that speed on Friday and try to work that into their race setup. Now, on Friday when they were in their mock race setup, Gordon had difficulty going through the bumps down in turns 1 and 2. They're starting out where they finished, but they've added a few adjustments that they learned in qualifying. Chris Neville?
Well, Matt, Kevin Harvick has put together an incredible string of races. In the last 5 starts, he's had 2 second places and 2 finishes of first. And last week in Atlanta, he showed he can come from the back, and that's important for Sunday because his qualifying yesterday, 18th. So he's going to be starting mid-pack. I asked him about the challenges, and he said, just like Jeff Gordon, problems with the bumps down in turn 1. So he said in this practice session, his fingers are crossed. Mike?
See Harvick working the wheel there. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I know qualifying is always about speed, but it just seemed more so yesterday because even Kevin Harvick, when we were watching his in-car camera stuff and watching the RPM and throttle trace, he was barely out of the throttle.
Yes.
So it's like everybody was just hunting raw speed yesterday.
I tell you, I think you need to keep an eye on this 31 car because Ryan Newman, I mean, this car is really running well this week, and he's second quick in this practice. He qualified 7th, and this is a Ryan Newman kind of a racetrack. Keep an eye on that 31 car.
That's a brand new race car they brought here for Ryan this weekend.
Yeah, he'll be one to watch come Sunday for sure. Now his teammate Austin Dillon comes off a tough race in Atlanta where they cut a left rear tire and it shredded in the fender well. They replaced it with a tire that went and did the same thing. So Dillon ended up being responsible for a caution and then dropped back because of it. And the 3rd car in that group, Paul Menard, missed advancing to the final round by thousands yesterday.
And Mike, I think you can watch these cars and watch the nose, and you'll notice you'll see how kind of bumpy the track is. Not that it's terrible, but when you see that nose hopping up and down, bouncing up and down, that's going across some of the little bumps in the racetrack, and the cars are really sensitive to that.
And that's where so much speed is at. If you can get that splitter, that very front part of that nose, the lower part, sealed to the racetrack, that's speed. But that's hard to do, especially to Darrell's point with the bumps that's down there in like 1 and 2.
Yeah, I noticed several of the cars. I saw Jeff Gordon's, I think even Dale Jr.'s 88 car here. They got the right front cocked up just a little bit. I think trying to compensate for those bumps down there so the splitter won't bottom out on the racetrack.
Well, Junior said after one qualifying run yesterday, he said, and no bumps there. Going too fast. Don't feel them.
He jumped them.
Of course, you can't do that for 400 miles. And
of course, you see Junior's car in the corner. Now, that thing will be sealed right down on the track in the corner, but he's got to have it up off the ground a little bit to keep it from hitting the track and bouncing up the racetrack. And you can just watch his hands and see the ride he's getting. And you can see he's getting bounced around pretty good in there.
passing Cole Witt, Front Row Motorsports trio. That this week includes Brett Moffitt for the next 3 weeks. Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., the Fast Five. Sprint Cup Series practice. There's the fastest car in town right now, Jimmy Johnson, 28.14. Has 3/10 in the bank on Ryan Newman, who is second fastest. And Kyle Larson is 9th quickest after pacing one of the practice sessions and setting himself up as a potential favorite for the race Sunday, starting 5th.
Yeah, when I think about how he ran at tracks like Auto Club Speedway last year, you just feel like this could be the weekend for Kyle Larson.
Well,
he's already starting to move that groove up the racetrack, too.
That's what I was going to say, Larry. I know we're not up against the wall yet, but when the race starts tomorrow, it won't be long till they'll be rim riding in 3 and 4, and probably in 1 and 2 as well. They get this groove moved way up there, right up next to the wall. And, of course, we know he loves that.
Oh, yeah. I was really interested to hear Sam Hornish's post-qualifying comments about all the things that entered into why they did not advance to the next round. When other cars went on the racetrack, when he grabbed 4th gear, when he got up to speed, where he was on the racetrack. It's not just put your foot on the floor and drive the car around for 2 laps. I mean, there was an awful lot. It was the perfect storm. Everything that could have gone against them on that run went against them. They had a quick car. They didn't advance.
But I think the point he made about when he got to high gear was a great point, because before this year, you know, you had 850, 875 horsepower in a very low gear. NASCAR's pulled about 6 to 7% of gear out of the car, plus about 125 horsepower. So as he said, when you leave pit road, and remember, you have to stay on the apron, adhere to the blend line rule, you better be grabbing gears and own it when you leave pit road.
Yeah, it all makes a difference. Here's Kevin Harvick, who is 3rd fastest in this session, Chris.
Yeah, Mike, yesterday he just said that car just nervous across the bumps down in turn 1. After these last 12 laps he just ran, he said, hey guys, we've made a lot of progress. The car now very comfortable across the bumps. 3rd quick on the board, but really watching that car, it has a great 10-lap average. In fact, he's top of the list down there, running pretty much mid-28s that entire 12 laps.
Yeah, he was disappointed. 18th qualifier yesterday. He was really disappointed with that. That car normally is up front, and that was a bad qualifying run for them.
Kevin will be in the booth for the Xfinity Series race on Fox Sports 1 later today. Matt?
Mike, a guy to watch on Sunday, Tony Stewart. You've documented a number of times just how well he does in the summer months because of the heat and the slick tracks, but he's been doing pretty well here in the past. A 1st, a 2nd, and an 11th until last year when he had that spring malfunction. A good stretch run for him. Now the car is good, currently 8th on the board. Now they made a 9-lap run. He said the balance better than it was yesterday, and the car, although it's free through the bumps in turns 1 and 2, it's much better than yesterday. They just made a left rear shock change.
I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be pretty hot here tomorrow, but if he likes it hot and slick, wait till next week.
Phoenix, absolutely. Danica Patrick, 17th in this session, 28.77. Her quick lap.
It's been pretty consistent in the top, 12, 15 here. Qualified pretty good yesterday.
This should be a good track for her. Wide, plenty of room to race, high speed all the way around.
Yeah, she got one of her better Xfinity Series finishes here a few years ago, ended up finishing 4th.
Yep.
car's got a nice ride to it. I mean, it's not popping the nose up. It's just kind of floating across the bumps, which is what you want.
Now, when we went into the final round of qualifying yesterday, Jamie McMurray and teammate Kyle Larson were at the top of the board. But things did not go well for Jamie Mack in that final round. He ended up 10th, Larson 5th. But they have speed.
But I loved what he said. He said when he and Kyle Larson were at the top of the chart after that round 2, he said, as I pulled into my pits to see all the Ganassi crew members just smiling, that they really felt like, okay, we've got something this weekend, to know that both drivers were at the top after round 2.
Yeah, well, when you make a crew chief change, you know, from Rodden to McCall here, that's encouraging to that new crew chief. That means he's doing a good job and leading the team well.
This brought to you by Sprint. Jimmy Johnson has the fastest lap of this session on his second of 13 laps. Get on the fast track to savings with a Sprint Cut Your Bill in Half event. Bring your Verizon or AT&T bill and your wireless bill and your current phone. They'll cut your rate plan in half. Down to the garage, Chris Neville.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. qualified 4th for tomorrow's race. And Dale, right now you're 5th on the board. Yesterday you said the car a little bit uncomfortable behind the bumps in race trim. How's it feel today?
We're still working on it. Got this practice in the morning. The cars are way too fast to be really working on a whole lot of things. But we are going through some ride quality stuff and trying to get the car to where we can get, be as smooth as we can over the bumps. So that ain't a problem.
Thanks, Dale.
Mike, there are 19 cars in the 28-second range. And I mean, that's fast practice speeds. And you got Jimmy Johnson up there at a 28.14. That would have qualified him, I don't know, in the top 20 yesterday in qualifying speeds.
Certainly would have. Yep. Denny Hamlin, he had a little tough time in qualifying. He and Kevin Harvick will come from mid-pack tomorrow. Hamlin, 19th. On the grid and right behind Harvick.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kevin Harvick could be in the booth for the Xfinity Series race today. Denny Hamlin making a rare appearance in the Xfinity Series race. He's going to be in that 54 car, substituting for Kyle Busch this afternoon.
And remember, Hamlin's got a new crew chief this year. He got Dave Rogers. You know, that's a big change for him, and they're still, I'm sure, going through some growing and learning pains as well. So. Little communication, they'll get it going.
Alex Bowman for Tommy Baldwin Racing, now a single car team. We talked with Tommy in the elevator. He was on his way up to the spotter's perch.
Yep.
Kind of team owner doing double duty here. For Bowman, who missed the Daytona 500 but has rebounded nicely and got into the race on time yesterday. He'll start 27th.
Another big field of cars here yesterday in qualifying.
Right.
We sent 5 drivers home, had 48 cars in it.
Martin Truex Jr., what a great qualifying run he had yesterday.
Man, I'm a big fan of these guys. I got to tell you, I got to talk to Martin yesterday for a little while. I did a little interview with him. He's got that pep in his step. He's got a smile on his face. His race car's running good. Things are going good. Sherry's doing pretty well right now. Things are really going his way, which is a great turnaround from what they had to deal with last year.
Larry, weren't you saying this team's never been as high in the points as they are right this minute?
Yeah, you see the 2 finishes that he's had this year. In fact, every race at Daytona Speed Weeks were top 10 finishes. But yeah, Barney Visser, Furniture Row, this is their 10th year, and they have never had a driver in the top 5 in points. And right now, after 2 races, Martin Truex Jr.'s 5th in driver points.
And Cole Pern, I didn't know who he was. He was an engineer with the team, and he moved up after they made a little change with Todd Barrier. And Martin is really high on the guy. He says he's just doing a fantastic job. He's taking the information they get from Childress, the alliance they have, and really utilizing it to the max, and it's paying off in performance.
Brendan Gaughan. Certainly a fixture around Las Vegas. He has chosen to make his living in NASCAR. Behind the wheel, his family is the owner of one of the major casinos in Las Vegas, the South Point Hotel and Casino, down at the south end of the Las Vegas Strip, maybe a little past the south end of the Strip. It kind of sits there on an island of its own, but he's a wheelman. He was a walk-on basketball player at Georgetown University.
Yep.
Roomed with Allen Iverson.
Wow.
And but he wanted to be a racer, and he's turned out to be a pretty darn good one.
And the restaurant at the South Point, is it Michael's? Is that the name?
Michael's, yes.
It's supposed to be like one of the best restaurants.
It's as good as you can get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Named for Brendan's dad, Michael Gaughan.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they did get the bugs finally worked out of this 16 car. And now they're going to have a little Cheez-It.
I'm glad you said it before I had to.
I wanted to beat you to it.
Yes, you did. No problem. Greg Biffle, 18th in this session. And here's Casey Mears.
We talked about Casey yesterday, and we just recently talked about Martin Truex Jr., but as you walk in the garage and they're lined up by points, to see Casey Mears and Martin Truex Jr. and A.J. Allmendinger, all single-car teams, sitting up there near the front side of the garage area, all three in the top 10 in points right now.
And what do they have in common there?
They all have an alliance with Richard Childress Racing and that Chevrolet camp.
There you go. And it must be working pretty
Paying
good.
off, paying dividends.
Chevrolet is right now with 5 of the top 6 practice speeds, interrupted by Joey Logano's Ford in 4th. It's always a show in Las Vegas, but every time I see that clip of Jeff Gordon hitting that opening in that concrete wall,
ouch,
I bow up and my back hurts.
No kidding. That was a huge
Now,
hit.
we met with NASCAR this morning, and they have talked about their renewed efforts and very proactive efforts to install safer barriers and attenuating barriers such as the tire packs at more locations on all of these speedways, and they're working hard with the racetracks to do that, because when this happened last week at Atlanta and Jeff Gordon got tipped there by Jamie McMurray's car and slid to the inside wall just past the end of the safer barrier, when he climbed out, he couldn't believe it. Look at where I hit. Well, everybody at NASCAR is up on this, and it's a very proactive effort with all of the racetracks, so that there are not hard walls to hit. As we've seen the last couple of weeks, you see all that safer barrier that was added. You see some unprotected concrete here, but it is a full court press by NASCAR working with the racetracks to improve this situation as quickly as possible. Nobody is sitting on their hands, and nobody is waiting to be told what to do next.
I say it all the time. Safety is a moving target. I don't care how many walls you put up. I don't care how many roll bars you put in the car. I don't care how safe you make the cars. Something will always come up that you never, ever expected or seen before. And you just have to react to that. When something like that happens and you don't do anything about it, shame be on you. But when you see an incident like what we saw at Daytona, and they got a full court press on. They're surveying every one of these racetracks to see what needs to be done.
And that's the thing I'm encouraged by. It's not what we can't fix what happened. We can't do a thing about Daytona. We can't do a thing about the race at Atlanta last week. But the thing I'm encouraged by is NASCAR, all of the racetracks, all 23 of them, including even our road courses, they all are moving ahead, and they're doing everything they can, because it doesn't happen overnight. If you wanted to install safer barriers at every track today, you couldn't do it, because it is a long, drawn-out process just to get everything built and made.
I was surprised this morning when we were talking about it. They said there are in some situations where you would actually have to take the wall down and replace the wall because of the angles of the wall and so forth. These studies that they've done as far as, how if you do hit, what happens after you hit these walls, and some of them they'd have to take the wall down and change this angle of it before they could even put the safer barrier on it.
Michael Annett coming out for his practice run. Let's get back to the garage and Matt.
Mike, Denny Hamlin hopes history repeats. Remember, the last time he had a crew chief change, he won the second race of the year at Phoenix with Darian Grubb. Right now, Dave Rogers trying to fine-tune the 11. It was free in the first run. They made a sway bar change. It did improve on the second run, and actually, Denny even moved up in turns 1 and 2, trying to get the nose to hook up even better. He said the splitter didn't hit. It was improved, but they still have a lot to do to this 11 machine.
Well, it looks like there's some searching going on at Joe Gibbs Racing, because we heard from David Reagan over the in-car radio earlier in this session about how his car was responding to the track surface.
I feel like the car is just really stiff and rigid. Just feels like I'm moving around a lot, but I just feel like it's kind of harsh. But I just feel like it's just really harsh all the way around the track.
You can almost see it watching this 18 car, even on the straightaways. I watched it going down the back straightaway, but Darrell, what they're trying to do is just lock these cars down. We talked about that front splitter. You don't want it moving up and down, so how you keep it from moving up and down is just lock the front end down.
Yeah, what I'm seeing in his car, it's popping, pop, 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 and you don't want that. You want it to maybe float a little bit, get a little bit softer ride, and that thing looks like it's just hitting the bumps and popping, pop, 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 across the bumps. And that's usually shocks, aggressive rebound, and the shocks kind of snatching the wheels up off the ground.
Yeah, with this aero package, you want this old car like a hunting dog. Nose down and tail up.
Yeah, you want any car. That's a race car right there.
I don't ever want to own a car that's just like a hunting dog. I'm sorry, Larry.
You've never heard that dog will hunt.
No, I've heard it, but
he wouldn't have lasted long with Junior Johnson, would he?
Right. Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, Kevin Harvick fastest so far. Series qualifying is coming up next, and later today, 3:30 Eastern Time. The first checkered flag of the weekend will fly in the Xfinity Series race. Kevin Harvick joins our broadcast crew on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a look at Kevin Harvick's practice. Best 5-lap average, best 10-lap average, third fastest lap overall.
I'd say they fixed it compared to what he had yesterday, which he wasn't real happy, but we were surprised because this cat right here, I think didn't he dominate this race here last year? They had some kind of mechanical issue. Wasn't he like one of the fastest cars?
Yeah, he led a fair amount of laps, and this is where he had, I think, the hub
failure.
Yes.
That's what it was, yeah. It was early on last year when they kept having little gremlins.
Yeah, we've had 8 drivers run 10 or more consecutive laps.
There's the Hendrick running order.
A year ago, all 4 of those Hendrick Chevrolet drivers finished in the top 10. And we've talked about Jeff Gordon here in this 24 sitting on the pole. One thing I totally had forgotten about, he's actually sat on the pole for 3 out of the last 4 races, going back to Homestead, the last race of last year.
Yeah, got the old car running. It's fast.
And you could hear him on the radio. And that's the thing about Jeff Gordon. We've heard this for years. He knows when that lap is good. I mean, he knows it before he even gets back to the checkered flag.
You can hear him coming off turn 4 when he starts celebrating.
And the one pole he didn't win in that stretch was because his car never got on track to qualify.
Yeah.
Went through inspection as many as 4 times and didn't pass it in time to get out on the track. Carl Edwards 12th in this session, 28.61, and he's running right on top of that right now, 28.77, his last lap. That Joe Gibbs Toyota. Chris Neville.
Martin Truex Jr. 6th right now on the board, looking through a lot of the averages here, and you've got a big smile on your face. You said the 78 is fast.
It's really good right now, so just got to try to get out there some more. The track is heating up. It's going to lose some grip. We've got to make sure we keep the balance with it, and so we'll keep tuning on a little bit, but right now it's crazy fast. Feels really good.
Well, keep tuning. Have fun.
We've not seen a smile like that on Martin Truex Jr.'s face in a long, long time. Probably have to go back to the win at Sonoma a couple of years ago.
Yeah. When your car is crazy fast, you're always smiling.
Yep. Good to see. Justin Allgaier and his new teammate Michael Annett are right together on the practice chart, 27th and 8th. Separated only by about 100th of a second.
But if you want to, if folks at home, if you want to watch and see what makes a car fast, literally do watch the ride of the car. The cars that are really fast, they don't move around. I was watching Jeff Gordon's car, and it didn't even hopping up and down. As it goes through the bumps, the body never moves. The car, the body stays level. The other cars, you'll see that front end pop a little bit and the car move around quite a bit. Jeff Gordon's car was absolutely smooth as silk.
And 2 things are going on when the car's moving up and down. The tires are actually getting a little bit light, and then it changes the aero on the car.
Oh, yeah.
Now Clint Boyer, 36th in practice, has not shown a ton of speed this weekend. He'll be 20th on the grid come Sunday. Had a strong Daytona 500 though. Progressive.
210s right there.
Progressive banking at this speedway. The closer you get up toward the wall, the steeper the banking. Closer you get to the bottom of the track, the shorter way around.
See what he gets here, and the way that angle finder, what I love about it is because you can see how abrupt the car's going down the straightaway and abruptly goes into the banking, and then you'll see as it comes off the out of the corner, it'll go back down again, and it does it so abruptly, and that's that transition that you're constantly trying to get the car to be tight getting in and nice and free getting off.
Get a feeling he was moving around the racetrack and they were giving him his lap times to tell him what was faster and what was slower.
Quickest Toyota on track is Denny Hamlin in 7th, then Matt Kenseth in 10th. Welcome back to Las Vegas. 18 minutes left in this Sprint Cup session. We have final practice coming up later on here on Fox Sports 1. Darrell, one of the most treacherous aspects of this race, getting onto pit road.
Yeah, and I tell you what, look where pit road is. It's way around here off turn 4. First off, so late entry into this pit road, but look how abrupt. I mean, you've got to make a quick turn to get on pit road, and you don't have a lot of room right here. See, this narrows down. There's not a lot of room right here for error. And so what you've got to do is you got to let people know what your intentions are. You got to start down that back straightaway, getting a hand up, waving, because look, the groove's right here. And the car, when you're trying to turn in, here comes a dude running right up on your back bumper. You're slowing down. He's doing 180 miles an hour, and you're going to have a collision.
Now, the wide arc that yellow car took is pretty much carrying maximum speed to the point of cutting down to pit road entry.
Yeah, and then the other thing off turn 4 there is just how you're coming through the corner, you're carrying all that speed, and then you have to make an abrupt turn about right there. I mean, you got to make a hard left right there, and that's where we see the cars push out, hit the wall quite often right there.
Dale Jr. in turn 4.
You won't believe how, I mean, it's amazing how fast these cars go around this racetrack. I am blown away by the speed of these cars this year. All right. So you're coming down the back right now. Now, if Dale Jr. was going to pit right now about here, he'd start waving his hand. His spotter would talk to whoever he's around and say, look, we're going to pit this time by, because he's going to be right down here on the white line. And when he slows down to come in the pits, if the guy behind you doesn't know you're slowing down to come in the pits, he'll run over you. So it's a combination of things that have to happen. The driver has to let people around him be aware. He needs to pull down on the back straightaway a little bit so people say, okay, I think he's going to pit. That way he gives them extra room to get around him on the outside.
And the other thing that goes on, and I promise you this will happen tomorrow on the green flag stops, you have to get down to 45 miles per hour. And that first segment is only 89 feet that they're monitoring pit road speed in.
And you're coming through 3 and 4 so fast. Neither end of this racetrack, they're totally different on both ends of the racetrack. Turn 3 is totally different than turn 1. Exit of 2 is different than exit of 4. But the quick exit, when you're coming through 3 and 4 and you're coming, and all of a sudden there's the wall. Yeah. And you got to make another hitch. You got to make another turn. And that's where you smack that outside wall a lot. See how quickly, I mean, way back here, see how these cars have to come. I mean, they're headed right for the wall, and then you have to turn pretty hard right there. We saw it yesterday. Guys get loose. Guys have to get out of the throttle because you're carrying so much speed through the corner. It's hard to get that thing off the corner and stay in the gas.
Looking back at Casey Kane in that 5. Look for Casey to have a good run here tomorrow. Qualified up in the 3rd spot, along with several of his Hendrick Chevrolet teammates, and he's shown a lot of speed all weekend long.
And listen, guys, the more downforce you take away, the more horsepower you take away, the harder the driver has to work. It makes him have to work that much harder to try to overcome what they've taken away, and these drivers are pretty good at that, and the teams are pretty good at figuring it out too.
Brad Keselowski going out for a run, pulls the visor down on this bright sunny day in Las Vegas.
He just motioned to somebody that he's going in the pits. Coming out of the pits. I can't tell where he's coming. He's coming or going. I'm not sure which way it is.
J.J. Yaley will start 40th in Sunday's race.
Right now, he's 40th on the practice sheet. He's only run a total of 6 laps with his 23 car.
I'll show you Brad Keselowski working the wheel here. Oh, now it's coming in.
No, you're not. No, you're
okay,
not.
let's not do that.
We're not going to show you anything. But
all right, here's what I want to know. Everybody else that has an affinity for a particular beer,
yeah.
Back in the hot rodding days when we all were driving big block Chevys with 4-speed sticks, everybody had a beer tap handle for a shifter.
Exactly.
Why doesn't he? I mean, you had, right, Darrell? You had to have one.
Well, that
was part of the deal.
Yeah, I don't know, but these shifters in these cars are pretty delicate, apparently, because they break a lot of them. I know that.
Okay.
Look at that throttle trace right there.
Look at those RPM. They drop very little.
Now, he is not having to use near as much wheel as what we saw for Brad Keselowski a little bit ago.
This car looks pretty smooth.
Yeah,
he's not wrestling with a wheel at all, where Brad was pretty much fighting with his. You see how smooth Kevin is here. He just nice and smooth down the straightaway. Got a nice ride. And, of course, the speed, it's indicative of the speed, too. He's third quick.
And we can show you right there his position on the track, indicated by the green dot.
Oh, good. We learned something. Get her on back to us here.
Now let's show you the difference. You saw Kevin and the hand movement through the corners. Take a look at Brad on this last run.
Yeah, see, that car's nervous. And he's having the front tires are nibbling. They're kind of nibbling along the track.
Eric Almirola's gone around coming out of turn number 2. Puts us under caution with 9 minutes to go in this session.
No, but I got flat tires.
Yeah, you might not want to be real careful with that thing.
Everybody else trying to drive it.
And I don't think he hit anything, but he did blow out the right side tires, and you got to be careful driving it back to the garage.
That's what he's going to want to be careful, because if those tires come apart, then there'll be a whole lot of damage to that 43 car.
Go real slow if you want.
Now he's going to be way off in the distance down the backstretch on the replay we'll show you, as we're under caution now. Watch for him coming out of the shadows.
Oh yeah, that thing gets
right there,
way back up in the middle. You know, he's way up off of the corner. They started stepping out way back about that O'Reilly sign.
But look at how nice and wide the surface is here, and it's all paved.
Yep.
No grass to go through there. And he gets it woed up there before that opening.
Boy, look at the drivers that were actually about to head out on the racetrack on the apron. That was almost a pretty close call for those guys.
When you're in that thing and it's headed for that inside wall, you're saying, come on, baby, come on, stop, 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 stop.
You know who else was saying that? Trent Owens, his crew chief.
And Richard.
Almirola 24th in this session, so we're under caution with a little more than 8 minutes to go, and final practice coming up later on. To pit road, they're not even going to try to wheel that thing into the garage before they put some fresh tires on it. Tires are not flat to the rim because of the safety inner liner. It has much higher pressure than the tire that surrounds it. It's not like an inner tube. It's really a tire within a tire, so the car doesn't drop down to the rim. So it looks like there's air in the tire, but of course there's not. So.
And they really can't open the track until they get these tires changed, because where Eric is sitting is really where they go in and out of the garage area. And there's a lot of drivers sitting there on pit road with only 5 minutes to go saying, please, we want to get one more run in this practice.
Yeah, look at the line of cars waiting to go out to get the last minute run here.
Well, it's not final practice, thank goodness, so we don't have that urgency.
Yeah, but the conditions, they keep it getting more like what the race conditions will be. The track's heating up, and that's important to get some good data right here before you have that break, so you can see if you need to make any changes or not.
All right, we listened to Casey Kane. He was, you know, we watched how smooth and fast Kevin Harvick was. So did Casey.
Seems like Harvick and Larson are both pretty good. Do you ever watch them? Yeah, Harvick's been consistently not in the gray, but his right side's up to the black. I've watched him every time he's been out, both ends. Larson is maybe close up there, but maybe a couple feet lower than him, both ends too. But Harvick's right against the black, both sides, every lap. Okay, 10-4. That's what I was thinking, but makes sense.
Well, that's talking about the two drivers who have the best consecutive 10-lap average in this session.
And that was Casey's spotter, Kevin Hamlin, up on top of the grandstands here.
And that's why a spotter, I kind of like a spotter that's driven. They kind of understand what the driver needs to know, what he needs to tell him.
Yep.
And they can just, I think, relate a little bit better.
Here's our favorite tuning tool, consecutive laps. You know, it's one thing to have a car that'll bust off one quick lap, but the best 5 and 10 lap averages are both headed up by car number 4, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, because a fuel run here is about 44 to 48 laps. So if you can run at least 15 laps or more in one single run, it's going to give you a direction of what this car is going to do.
And I don't know that I remember a team that actually put on their side of their car what their car was. This car is freaky fast. They started off that year with last year with that car, freaky fast. They warned everybody before the season even started.
Well, not that I encourage betting, and I guess there's going to be a pretty big handle on this race. And the casinos do really well because it's not like football where you have 2 teams to choose from. You have 43 of them here. But in the last 4 races on 1.5-mile tracks, Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick combined won them all. In fact, Harvick has finished first or second in the last 4 1.5-mile track races. I guess freaky consistent wouldn't fit on the quarter panel.
When you're freaky fast, that's the main thing. Yep. Hamlin would always say, what can I do to help you? Give me a fast car.
You know, Mike, you talk about the last 5 races where he's had 2 wins and 3 second-place finishes the end of last year and this year. And those 5 races alone, he's led 436 laps.
Wow.
And I don't know how he'll do here tomorrow. Pretty well, I would say. But I think next week, could be a Harvick benefit race because he's got Phoenix dialed in, boys.
Won both races there last year. That win in the fall race is what put him in that 4 going to Homestead to battle for the championship.
Yes, sir. They got to be licking their chops.
I'm not sure I'd bet on him, but I don't think I'd bet against him.
Nope.
Here or Phoenix. Casey Kane 15th in this session. Now he has the 4th best 10-lap average. All Chevrolets, Harvick, Larson, Earnhardt, Kane in that category.
You know, you think about he and Kenny Francis were together forever. Crew chief driver combination. And now he's got a new crew chief this year. I got to think that's maybe take a little bit of time to get kind of on the same page.
That was an interesting line from David Reagan. That white line at the inside of the track is not out of bounds. In fact, in qualifying, everybody cuts that line to get the shortest possible lap.
You know, I was curious, and I think Matt Yoakum is down there. He may have the answer. If Kyle Busch had been keeping in touch with this team, kind of like what we saw Tony Stewart doing last year.
DW, he is keeping in touch with the team, but via cell phone after practice sessions, and he's watching our coverage and watching the practice coverage on FanView. Now, Tony Stewart, as you mentioned, he had a system set up. It was almost like an air traffic controller, monitors, and he could talk to the team. The IT guys at JGR, my guess, in a week or 2 are probably going to be busy setting up something like that for Kyle Busch as well. But you know what? He is in great spirits. He had the team over on Tuesday night for a pizza party to hang out with his guys, and that's really the best medicine. And also, like any driver, he gave them about a sheet of paper with a bunch of suggestions for here at Phoenix.
Yeah, and even though his legs are, got a problem with his legs, you got to continue to work out. You can't let your injuries on your legs pull the rest of your body down. So you're going to do a lot of upper body, and eventually you're going to start working those legs to get strength back in them.
I'm pulling for Landon Castle tomorrow to break his string of finishing last in the first 2 races of the season, something that had never happened before in NASCAR's history. In 1949, Glenn Delaware disqualified after a win and was awarded last place money and finished last the next week. But come on, Landon, got to make it to the finish line this week. Practice is over. Final practice coming up a little later on. We'll have that for you on Fox Sports 1. But Jimmy Johnson has the fastest individual lap of practice. Ryan Newman, Kevin Harvick leads all the consecutive lap categories. Bunch of Chevys surrounding Joey Logano's Ford there.
I think that's pretty indicative of what we're going to see. Those guys at the top of the speed chart right now, they got good cars, really good cars.
You saw Kyle Larson in that 42 car, 9th quickest. Here's a surprise. He ran the most laps of any driver in that practice, 36 laps.
He loves practice.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of number crunching over the next couple of hours, because that final practice, that is absolutely very relative to the race tomorrow conditions.
Sure. So here's the Aleve race menu for the rest of the day. Xfinity Series qualifying is coming up next over on Fox Sports 2. Sprint Cup Series final practice on Fox Sports 1, followed by NASCAR race day. And the Xfinity Series race from Las Vegas is live on Fox Sports 1 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time today. Jimmy Johnson, fastest lap, looking for another Las Vegas trophy. And we'll have final practice for you later on. Infinity Series qualifying coming up next.